Here at the Aravosis Report. Lots of sunshine as America turned its clocks ahead this weekend. So we're back to that part where I've got way too much light coming in for my taste, but that's okay. What do you do? Anyway, hello all. How are we this afternoon? Cheers. Hopefully people made it. I always get worried about the time change, messing everybody up. Since I did not realize some European countries move ahead and others do not for a few weeks, which we learned. Was it UK and Norway or something? I remember several of you guys saying your countries weren't going until like January 31st. I'm having a little bit of coffee here. Anyway, hello all. All right, let me get TikTok set up here. I'm not even thinking of TikTok. Oh well, forgetting TikTok. It's okay. It's okay. I've got you people. All right, hang on a second. Let me get Now, Eve, where are you, Eve? Oh, you're in the UK. Okay, so UK doesn't change. Okay. I mean, doesn't change yet. It changes eventually, of course. Let me go here live. Oop, not the coffee talk today. All right, Ukraine war update. Give me a second here. Let me do something just for fun here. Oop, where are my glasses? Here are my glasses. I'm becoming my parents here. Where are my glasses? Sitting around my neck. Hang on a second here. Let me get... We can try this. I'm wondering here. I don't know. 1 second here. I'm trying to think of something really quick as we're talking here. La la la. I think. Yeah, what the heck. 258, that was weird. Sorry. I'm like doing everything weird here today. Okay. All right. Now I'm ready to go live. Here we go. All right. TikTok. Go live, TikTok. All right. Anyway, hello all. There we go. TikTok. Only subscribers. Of course it's only subscribers because I'm an idiot. Sub only chat. There we go. Now everybody's allowed on TikTok. Okay. Woo. Life is hard sometimes, guys. There we go. This light thing has kind of screwed me up. See, I've already got to adjust now. Because as soon as the light changes, hey, TikTokers. Hold on, plugging it again. All right, let's try that again. I just replugged in my TikTok mic. Hopefully it works now. TikTok, let me know if the mic is working now. Being very difficult here. There we go, okay. But also on YouTube, it's good enough. It's good enough, okay. Because the light messes things up now, and what do you do? Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome all. It's funny, I always say this, just having like 2 days off on the weekend is enough to like mess me up that I forget how to do the show. It's okay. Anyway, hello all. Thank you. Who is that? Elizabeth? Thank you, Elizabeth. Oh, anyway, thank you, Lotus. I did make a little bit of coffee before the show, which I probably shouldn't have this late at night, but what do you do? What do you do? Thank you, Martin. Succeed. So many little gifts coming in on TikTok. Thank you, guys. Anyway, there is a good amount of news today. I would say quite a lot of news today. So hopefully it's good, but it's a lot of news. So we shall see. Anyway, all right, well, let's get rolling, guys. So welcome, everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is my show. Thank you. Who is that? Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl. This is my show. I do the latest news from Ukraine, basically. So I'm like, you can tell, I'm still doing things on TikTok as I'm talking to you, so I'm getting distracted. This is my show. I do the latest news on Ukraine, and we talk for about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes about the news, and then I open it up to questions, comments, your guys' takes. I also do try to sort of go through and grab your takes while I'm talking. I just can't always because I've got sort of notes that I'm going through, and it's not always easy to see the sort of the situation here. And yes, the lighting is totally different because we changed the time. So now it's light out, and it but it changes everything for the lighting. It's as me on a creator end, it's confusing. Thank you, Ava. Yep, it's a little confusing for me because adjusting the lighting is always not easy when it's behind you and you've got the light in front of you, and it's very bleh. Musical Neptunian says 20 Days in Mariupol is in the Internet Archive. Explain what you mean it's in the Internet Archive. I know archive.org, but what do you mean? Thank you, Ava. What they're referring to, however, is that at the Oscars last night, the Academy Awards, the big movie awards in Hollywood. Thank you, Crazy. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, Bryce. The Ukrainian documentary 20 Days in Mariupol won the Oscar for Best Documentary. It is a film about the early days of the Russian attack on Mariupol, which is southeastern Ukraine. And it's, I've not seen it yet because I've been sort of avoiding it just because everyone said it's so, so heavy, which you can imagine because the Russians just destroyed the town. But in any case, so congratulations to them, obviously, and we all should see it. I'm going to see it at some point. Obviously, I have to see it, but it's just, it's so heavy. I'm not there yet, but we'll see. Anyway, so yeah, let's get rolling here, guys. So today is day 744 of Vladimir Putin's 3-day special military operation in Ukraine. Please do keep the gifts coming. I do this for free, and your guys' gifts help me pay the bills. So thank you, like a musical for doing the little chat gift on TikTok, on YouTube, excuse me. And with the chat gifts, the questions, I will always make a point of getting to those as soon as possible, meaning not waiting for the question and answer. And for you guys on TikTok, I will always try to do a shout out for the bigger gifts on the screen. So thank you. Let's get rolling. So Swedish flag was raised today at NATO headquarters in Brussels. Now, Sweden officially joined NATO a couple days ago. I think it might have been Thursday or Friday, because what happens is once the actual letter that Sweden writes and they sign saying we want to join NATO, thank you, Marie, thank you, Ellie, after all the NATO countries have agreed, thank you, Ellie, that's what triggers Sweden joining NATO. So Sweden actually joined NATO a few days ago, but today was the official ceremony at NATO headquarters in Brussels when they raised the flag. I think I do have it on my phone just to show you. Very low tech. I keep forgetting that I actually could set this up to show you guys on TikTok and YouTube, but I always forget. Where's the Swedish flag? Oh, here it is. Yeah, I knew I had it. So this is the Swedish flag being raised at NATO headquarters. Very nice. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. Good. Actually, you guys, that's not so bad. It's never as easy on YouTube to show these things, but you can see the flag in the middle. So very nice. Well, what's the point of joining? I mean, too fast, too furious. Thank you, Sean. From the Swede perspective, actually, it's not just Sweden. Finland, too. Finland joined several months ago for the same reason Sweden joined. Thank you, Mustard. And both countries are worried about Russia invading. Now, Sweden, I think, and Finland have always been concerned. Thank you, R19. Thank you, William. Thank you, Mustard. Have always been concerned about Russia invading. But Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed everything. And I think in multiple phases, really. I think, first of all, for a number of people in our country, for a number of Europeans, and certainly for the border countries like Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, the countries that were either part of the Soviet Union, in other words, sort of held hostage by Russia in the Soviet Union, that would be Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, or countries that were held hostage by Russia as part of the Warsaw Pact, Poland, right, which were the satellite countries that the Russians basically installed communist dictatorships in after World War II. They all saw the invasion of Ukraine and said, this is, utterly familiar. We know what the Russians are doing. This is old Russia. This is the old Soviet mentality coming back. They're going to invade their neighbors. They're going to take over. And then over the last 2 years, things got even worse. And I think a lot of us now, I have been downplaying the World War III, comments. Thank you, Big Hawk. Up until recently. Thank you, Adventurers. Because I don't like sort of hysteria. I don't like also conspiracy theories, but also just kind of hysteria. Oh, World War III. But I think we are in greater danger of a world war now than we have been in a very long time because of Ukraine. And it is not because we are fighting Russia in Ukraine. It's because we're actually not fighting Russia in Ukraine. American aid's gone. I mean, there's like the Republicans in Congress at the request of Donald Trump or the demand of Donald Trump cut off all aid. It's gone. And Russia's doing much better now. And if this keeps up, I think Russia will win the war. It may take a few years, but I think Russia's going to win the war at this point. Thank you, Adventurers. Or at the very least, they're going to get such a large chunk of Ukraine that it's just not going to matter anymore who wins because Russia will have won anyway. And that is incredibly dangerous because what we've seen, thank you, Christopher, thank you, Adventurers, what we are seeing is that Russia has become the Soviet Union again. Thank you, Jetta. In terms of they are a militaristic, imperialistic empire wanting to take over their neighbors, take all their land. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Jetta and Ellie. And in a brutal manner, willing to kill and murder and kidnap children and everything. And this is the Soviet Union, guys. I mean, this is what we had to deal with last time around. And we have got treaty obligations with Europe to defend them if they get invaded. Now, I don't think for a minute Donald Trump is going to abide by those treaties, because Trump doesn't care. And if anything, Trump is on Vladimir Putin's side. He's not on NATO's side. But if Putin were to invade NATO and were to invade Europe, I think it would be difficult even for Donald Trump. I think you'd have an uprising in the American military, and you'd have an uprising among a lot of Americans, I think, if Trump didn't. But I will say this. There is a greater chance of war with Putin because of Donald Trump than without Donald Trump. Because Trump has told Putin, and he's frankly told the Chinese too, I would argue, that you can invade. It's okay. He's told Putin. He literally invited Putin to. He urged Putin to invade Europe. Well, if you're Putin, you're going to do, and China too, you're going to do a calculation of, is this, if you're planning some invasion, right? If Putin's thinking of Poland, Putin's certainly thinking of Estonia, Putin is thinking of the Baltic states that he wants back. China thinking of Taiwan. You've got to do a calculation and say, okay, what's the cost of doing this? What's the negative and what's the positive? How hard is it going to be? Is America going to help? And if you're Putin right now, you don't believe America is going to help in Europe because Trump said so. Trump urged Putin to invade, said we're not going to help. Trump told the Europeans 4 years ago we weren't going to help. He told the head of the Ursula von der Leyen, I forget, is she the head of the European Commission? I forget her exact, or president, I forget her exact title, but one of the, the top European official of the European Union. Thank you, Charles, and NJ Patman. And he told her, he said, we will not come to, we're not going to defend you. If Putin invades, we're not defending you. That only makes it more likely for Putin to invade. So anyway, I am very worried about war at this point. But in any case, so good for Sweden and Finland. Thank you, Vicky. But that's why Sweden and Finland joined NATO, because they live right next to Russia and they see what Russia has become. And Russia has become exactly what it used to be, an evil, imperialistic dictatorship, an evil empire, to quote Ronald Reagan. And they're going to risk getting to war with us, guys. And unfortunately, if you don't stand up to these guys, and again, talk to the Europeans, if you don't stand up to them, that's the best way to guarantee a war, is to placate a dictator rather than standing up to him. So in any case, Orban, speaking of dictators, the wannabe dictator of Hungary, Viktor Orban, who's the prime minister there, he is a Putin crony. He hates Europe. He hates NATO. He loves Putin, loves the Russians, hates Ukraine, wants the war in Ukraine to end so Ukraine can just be given to Russia. Again, hates Ukraine because he hates everything in the West. Of course, met with Donald Trump this weekend at Mar-a-Lago because Trump is trying to stir the waters, stir the pot, cause trouble. Orban came out and endorsed Trump for president. Big surprise. Trump probably asked him to. Totally inappropriate. I mean, I cannot tell you how inappropriate it is to have a foreign leader come to the United States, not meet with the president of the United States, but meet with the former president and endorse him for election. It is completely inappropriate. It's, of course, completely inappropriate for Trump to do it because he's screwing around with American foreign policy, which is illegal, but he doesn't care. He's got 91 criminal charges against him at this point. Trump doesn't care. And Orban came out and said that Donald Trump is going to cut all aid to Ukraine. After meeting with Trump privately for several hours, they, of course, had nobody there to witness what the discussion was. Orban came out and said Trump is going to cut all aid to Ukraine if he's elected on day one. He's going to end the war immediately by basically cutting Ukraine off. And Orban didn't say this, but the next obvious step is if you cut off all the aid and the war ends immediately, it's because Ukraine can no longer fight and you've handed Ukraine to Russia. And that, my friends, is a wonderful recipe for World War III to start, is appeasing Russia. Now, let's get a little more into this. So thank you, Maddie. Radek Sikorski, who's the foreign minister of Poland, very hawkish, good guy. Thank you, Kronos. I met him actually in Washington before the war broke out, before the war in 2022 broke out. And Sikorski said today that there are, in fact, some NATO countries that already have troops in Ukraine. non-combat troops. This was very interesting. Some of you pointed this out to me on Discord. I hadn't actually seen it until you mentioned on Discord earlier. And what's interesting about this is part of that ongoing campaign I told you about, where the Czech Republic, Poland, and France are basically trying to push the issue of Ukraine, of NATO troops, I should say, or troops of NATO countries being placed in Ukraine. Now, the Germans let it slip that there already were French troops, that there already were British troops there. Thank you, LWD. I'm trying to remember, I don't know if Callum's here. I think Callum's here. Thank you, King Arthur. Did the Germans also let slip, thank you, LWD as well, that the French had troops in Ukraine to help with the cruise missiles? Or was it just the Brits had troops in Ukraine to help with the cruise missiles? I thought maybe he had said both. I don't quite remember when the Germans kind of let that slip. But nonetheless, the fact, I haven't seen, it's funny, Callum's, you know what? Callum doesn't know about the time change. I'm going to send him a message. I was messaging Callum before the show, but didn't mention. Let me tell him. He knew, though. He said it was earlier, but I think then he forgot. Hold on. Where is he? There we go. Okay, just sent him a message. Hopefully Callum will figure it out. But what is interesting about this is Sikorski, the Polish foreign minister, is talking about NATO troops being in Ukraine already. Troops of NATO countries, I should say, being in Ukraine, because he's trying to set the conditions for more troops going. Look at it this way. Putin, and his top officials threatened nuclear war again last week when they found out that Macron, the Czech, and the Poles were at least talking about possibly sending troops to Europe, to Ukraine. Putin freaked out. Nuclear war, this kind of crap, right? Well, it is a lot less escalation. It is a lot less escalation for NATO to send troops to Ukraine if NATO troops are already in Ukraine. What I mean is, it is less of a shock, right, to us, but also to Putin if NATO troops are already there. If NATO troops are already there and we're slowly increasing the number of NATO troops, that's great. Thank you, Monty. Right? If there's no troops and you suddenly add troops, that's I don't think it's a problem, but that's a bigger shock to Putin. Oh my God, you've added troops. So Sikorski is actually trying to sort of expand the window already and enlarge it and say, no. Don't give us this line about if we send troops to Ukraine, you'll go nuke us. We've already got troops there. And you didn't nuke us, right? So it's in politics you'd call it expanding the Overton window, but it's basically expanding the window of what is possible because you've expanded the window of what is acceptable in a sense, because you're telling people we've already got troops there. You get what I'm saying? It's very interesting. CNN. So a little bit more about all of this. CNN reported yesterday. Jim Sciutto is a national security correspondent, defense correspondent for CNN. He's one of their top reporters. Very good guy. Thank you, Annie, for the the laser eyes, and thank you, Gabe. Jim Sciutto is a very good reporter at CNN. He has a book coming out tomorrow. The book is called, I wrote it down, The Return of Great Powers, and the name goes on from there. One of the stories he tells in his book that came out this weekend is that Russia was allegedly much closer to using nuclear weapons in Ukraine than was known publicly. Now, remember, basically it was late 2022, maybe the fall of 2022, and all of a sudden there was all this talk from U.S. officials kind of publicly telling the Russians, I'm adjusting the lights, that's nothing I could do. Okay, it's a little bright in my eyes, but what do you do? Telling the Russians, you better not use nukes. And then remember, we heard that the U.S. actually got the Indian government and the Chinese government involved to try to put pressure on Putin not to use his nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Sciutto reports that there was actually great concern in the U.S. government that Putin was getting ready to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, that the intervention of the Chinese and the Indians helped a lot. I don't know. I don't know with this, guys. I mean, I feel a little bit, I worry about, there's two things. One, it's entirely possible. Maybe Putin was getting ready to use nuclear weapons. A lot of the experts don't seem to think it makes any sense. Ron just said, radiation would flow back into Russia, and that's true. You'd also risk, let me get the map out, depending where you nuke, right? You use nuclear weapons against Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital. You risk radiation going up here to Belarus, radiation going to Russia. The battlefield over here, well, anywhere around here, you risk it getting, Russia's over here. You risk it getting to Russia. Russia's also down here. You know what else is in the area? Georgia, independent country. Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland. You've got lots of countries where that nuclear radiation from a nuclear bomb going, even if it's a small nuclear bomb, you got a lot of countries that stuff could go into. Nuclear radiation drifts into a NATO country from Russia using nukes. That is an act of war. It depends how NATO responds, but it is arguably an act of war. So I'm not convinced. Also, the defense experts will tell you that it never actually made sense for Putin to use nukes in Ukraine. There was no advantage. There just was no advantage to it. It wasn't, in other words, he could do it perhaps as shock and awe, like trying to scare the Ukrainians into giving up. The problem is, would it, especially, by the way, especially 2022. 2022 was before MAGA Republicans had cut off all U.S. aid, right? So 2022, we were still strongly supporting Ukraine. I'm not convinced that if Putin had used the weapons, he had used nukes in Ukraine, that there wouldn't have been a massive NATO response and a massive U.S. response. Now, we're talking about Joe Biden. I don't believe, one of the reports was, one of the options the administration was considering was attacking Russian troops in Ukraine if Putin used nukes. I don't believe that for a second. What I mean is, I'm sure that was one of the options. Biden, in a million years, would never be attacking Russian troops. My concern is that Biden would probably do far too little if Putin were to use nukes in Ukraine. Nonetheless, it didn't happen, so who the hell knows what the deal is. Second part of Jim Sciutto's story, which I'm going to mention to you just because it's kind of important and a lot of you are European, even if it's not Ukraine related directly. Sciutto interviewed General John Kelly, former American general who Trump hired as his chief of staff at the White House. So, the chief of staff at the White House, the big guy. And Trump back then, beginning of his administration, was very big on generals. And because Trump thought it was cool to have generals as his aides. So he picked generals to be like an admiral as his doctor and a general as his chief of staff. And I'm trying to remember, who were the other generals, guys? Remember? He had a couple different generals. I think he might have had a couple generals as chief of staff, like another guy. National Security Advisor, like McMaster, I think was one. He kept getting a lot of different generals. Oh, the former general at the Pentagon. Wasn't there a general at the Pentagon too? I'm trying to remember. But Trump kept picking generals because he thought it was cool. John Kelly was the general who was the chief of staff at the White House. Correct. So what happens is Kelly can't stand Trump now, as most of the top people who worked for Trump. And this is something that the MAGA people, oh God, they're General Flynn, exactly, General Flynn, that was it. General Flynn, right, Trump's national security advisor who was cozy with Putin and got fired like 10 days on the job because he had lied. I think he'd lied to the CIA or lied to the FBI or something. I mean, it was really a horrific story. The guy's creepy as hell. Now he's a total MAGA conspiracy lunatic at this point, Flynn. So anyway, General Kelly is Trump's chief of staff at the White House. Trump picked him himself. Trump appointed him. He's Trump's guy. Well, Kelly is another one who was so outraged and so concerned about Trump being unfit for office that he went and spoke publicly. Kelly told Jim Sciutto for CNN for his new book that Trump was big on praising Putin and Kim Jong-un in North Korea, so the dictators of North Korea and Russia. And Trump said that he thought Putin was an okay guy and Kim was an okay guy of North Korea, right? And Putin's horrific murderer, the North Korean dictator. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how bad the North Korean dictator is. I mean, Putin's bad, but the North Korean guy, folks, there's no superlative. It is the worst dictatorship on the entire planet and has been the worst dictatorship for a very long time, for decades. For Trump to praise him as an okay guy is sickening, naive, and crazy. He then goes on after praising Kim and Putin, and says they move the conversation to, and I'm going to be careful with my words because I never quite know what TikTok does with the automatic stuff, but the H-man, our wonderful friend who started World War II in Germany that we all obviously can't stand, the H-man in Germany, the conversation turns to, and Trump says, well, but H-man did some good things. Kelly, the general, turns to him and goes, I said, like what? And Trump goes, well, H-man rebuilt the German economy. Kelly goes, but what he did with the rebuild, but what did he do with the rebuilt economy? He turned it against his own people and against the world. Kelly then tells Trump, again, this is his chief of staff, then tells Trump, sir, you can never say anything good about that guy. Nothing. Telling him, thank you, Nicholas, but what Kelly means is he had to explain to Trump, you don't understand. You're not really allowed to say anything good about the H-man who ran Germany in World War II. It's not allowed. Like it's not normal. It's not cool. It's not something an American president would do. This is just sick behavior. And that rumor had been out there already, but Kelly finally went public with this book. And again, these are the guys Trump appointed. This is Trump's former chief of staff that he appointed, a former U.S. general, saying Trump had kind words for H-man. I mean, this is just, this is why I talk about Trump. And I know the Trumpers can't stand it, but this is why I talk about Trump, because he is dangerous. He is un-American. He is a uniquely bad, evil, corrupt president. Everything Republicans like to accuse Joe Biden of, Donald Trump did. The money, the corruption, the family influence, the family corruption, every single thing Donald Trump did. Thank you, Sherry. Not a damn thing did Joe Biden do. Joe Biden's son, I think, is corrupt as hell. His son is a mess. I mean, his son's a former drug addict or maybe a current drug addict, however you put it. He's a mess. We know that. But Joe Biden is a freaking Boy Scout. And frankly, it drives me crazy that Joe Biden's a Boy Scout. Joe Biden should stop being a Boy Scout. Why do I hate Trump? David, were you listening? The guy likes the H-man who was in charge of Germany in World War II. Trump says he did some good things. Okay? Trump tried to violently overthrow my government. Okay? I mean, put aside everything else. But by the way, there's years and years of things we can talk about how corrupt and bad Trump is. But just the fact that he tried to violently overthrow our government in order to win the election should be enough for everyone to hate him, to use your language. Every single one of you. And I'm sorry, but it shows how corrupt and naive and just bad Americans that Trump supporters, current Trump supporters are. You're not good Americans if you still support this man. You're not. You're part of a cult. You believe that, thank you, pediatric nurse, you're part of a cult that believes that violence is acceptable in politics. You're naive. You're gullible. I mean, you actually believe the guy's a carnival, but he's obviously a carnival barkster, but we know this. But you believe his lies that the election was stolen? I'm sorry. Thank you, incredibly. That makes you a very stupid individual if you believe that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I think, frankly, we have sugarcoated it too much. We've sort of presented it as though, no, as Hillary Clinton said when she said Trump supporters were deplorable. We sort of sugarcoated it. No, you're not deplorable. You're okay. We need to welcome you and kindly explain to you that violently trying to overthrow the government is a bad thing. We need to gently explain to you that the H-man who ran Germany in World War II really wasn't a good man. He didn't do some good things. Thank you, Lamb Chop. Right? We need to explain to you that the neo-Nazis who marched in America and killed a woman back in 2018 were not very fine people, which Trump called them. And we keep having to explain to Trump supporters, right, that Nazis aren't good people, that political violence is not acceptable in America. Thank you, Tom. And y'all just keep going and going and going, that a president, former president and presidential nominee facing 91 criminal counts and 4 indictments, thank you, Tom, is maybe a problem. But I'm sorry, no. You guys just you guys have got a problem. You're members of a cult. You're not very bright. And you're very gullible. And it's too bad. It's really too bad. Thank you, Christine, because it's not just America. I mean, this is freaking every country. Clearly. I mean, I just thought we were better. I thought we were, honestly, I always thought we were better than Europe. I did. I've talked about this before. I always thought, Europe, they've got the crazies. They've got the, thank you, Magical. They've got the crazy left, like the socialists and the communists. They've got the crazy right, Le Pen, fascists in France that are actually doing very well in the polls. But in America, we don't have that. Thank you, Cajun. Right? We're not worse than Europe. We would be we are some of the worst for Europe. But if you look at Le Pen in France, their party's doing that party. It's a racist fascist party. And they're doing very well in the polls. So we're not alone, but we are. Trump is pretty much tied with Orban. He would be, for Europe, even for Europe, he'd be pretty bad. But any case. So yeah, Trump said that the H-man who ran World War II did some good things. Good for you, Donald. Very proud of, it's a completely un-American buffoon. Poland President Duda wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post today, an editorial, so to speak, an opinion piece in the Washington Post today, and because he's coming to Washington tomorrow to meet with Biden, along with his along with the Prime Minister of Poland, and Duda wrote a piece today calling on all NATO countries to up their percentage that they spend, the percentage of their total economy that they spend on the military, to up it to 3%. Now, currently, NATO countries promised to pay basically, or not to pay, but to spend at least 2% of the size of their economy on defense. So their defense budget should be equal to 2% of their economy, right? Manda or somebody, if you're around, go check out YouTube, or Ash, just to make, I can't always tell who's around, so if somebody is there, no problem, but folks are saying they could use a little help, so go check it out when you get a second, Ash. Thank you. Sorry, quick sip of water here. Or not of water, I mean of my coffee. There we go. So, so the polls are arguing that we should have everybody pay 3%, actually 3% of the economy on defense. What else with the polls? Here's some of the stuff he wrote in the piece. Russia's imperialistic ambitions and aggressive revisionism are pushing Moscow towards a direct confrontation with NATO, with the West, and ultimately with the whole free world. Now, it should be noted that Poland, thank you, who's that, Noteworthy and Too Fast, Too Furious? I almost couldn't say that. Thank you for the gifts, guys. Poland already spends 4% of its economy on defense. So Poland is already spending more than enough. Oh, you're there, Amanda. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, people were warning. Just make sure. Thank you for that. Hey, thank you, Joe, for the gift. The Pope. So the Pope got into trouble this weekend. Okay, user 977. I see your question. Let it go. Right? We don't like people posing the same thing over and over again because it comes across kind of trolly. We're not talking about that right now. So I'm more than familiar with it. Yeah. And I'm familiar about the fact that there was a Putin crony in charge and there was a democratic revolution. Yeah. And Russia doesn't like it because Russia can't afford to have democratic revolutions on its border because Russia isn't a democracy. Yeah. So they decided to invade and steal land because that's what Russia does. So I'm more than intimately familiar with it. So the Pope got into trouble this weekend because he suggested that Ukraine... I've got to give you the exact quote. It was such a bizarre quote. The Pope said this weekend that Ukraine should have the courage of the white flag and negotiate with Putin to end the conflict. Now, a few problems here. First of all, the white flag is not a call to negotiations. The white flag is when you surrender. All right. The Pope called on the Ukrainians to surrender to Russia this weekend. Thank you, Christopher. That's really screwed up. Well, a lot of people, the Germans everyone's going after him now. The Germans criticized him. NATO Supreme Allied Commander, not Supreme Allied Commander, but the Supreme, what do you call Stoltenberg? I'm already forgetting his title. Secretary General. Thank you, incredibly tired. Secretary General criticized him. I've said this before, and it's important to remember that the idea of negotiating sounds nice because we all like negotiations, right? Don't we? We all would rather have you sit down and talk is better than fight war, right? And we always think that with any international crisis, right? Ceasefires are good, right? Negotiations are great. The problem is a ceasefire or a negotiation is not good in Ukraine's case when your neighbor is trying to kill you. It is akin to someone comes to your house, breaks down the door, literally moves in and takes 2 of the bedrooms, okay? And they even steal some of your children for good measure. They kill grandma and they steal 2 of your children. And the police, rather than arresting them, say, you know what? Let's negotiate. Can't you just negotiate, right? And the guy wants 2 bedrooms. Why don't you give him 1 bedroom? He's kidnapped 2 of your children. Maybe you should just let him keep 1 of your children. I mean, and the problem, I give a crazy example though, because the problem is, if you think about it, right? If you're having a dispute where both sides are kind of equal, right? Like a contract dispute. I say a tree fell and it hit your house, and you say it's my tree and I say it's your tree, and the law is unclear, then maybe we negotiate. Fair enough, right? But if I come and break into your house to kill you, you don't have a negotiation over that. You say, get out of my house, right? I mean, and this is the problem with Ukraine, is a ceasefire, first of all, gives Russia Ukraine. It says Russia has invaded and occupied 17 or 18% of Ukraine. A ceasefire would give Russia the opportunity to dig in and defend that area even when, in other words, what Russia's already done a very good job of defending the area, putting in landmines, putting in trenches, putting in all sorts of things that make it very hard for Ukraine to ever get its land back. Well, if there's a ceasefire, it gives Russia even more time to do that, to dig in and make it so that Ukraine can never get its land back. Negotiations, what do you negotiate, right? Putin stole a bunch of Ukrainian land. He kidnapped a bunch of Ukrainian children. So what do you negotiate? Putin's not going to get that he gives the land back? He's not going to give the land back. This is the problem with, and frankly, the third problem with this conflict and with negotiating. Putin's not going away, right? There is nothing you can give Putin to convince him not to invade again in 5 years. Okay? Putin, in 5 to 10 years, when Putin builds up let's pretend there's a wonderful negotiation and peace in our time. Some of you get that, right? Peace in our time, and the war ends. Yay! And within 5 to 10 years, the Russians will build up their military again, and they'll invade again because they want all of Ukraine. Putin didn't invade Ukraine because of NATO. That's not why. Putin invaded Ukraine because he wants Ukraine. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. Russia ran the Soviet Union. Putin thinks Ukraine belongs to Russia because of the Soviet thing. He thinks the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, which are Ava's wonderful map. Russia over here, Ukraine's here. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, these countries were part of the Soviet Union. Russia basically owned them. Russia took them hostage. He thinks those belong to Russia too. He's going to take them eventually if we let him. So the final problem, roundabout way of explaining this, but the final problem with a negotiation is there is nothing we can give Putin to stop him from starting the war all over again in 5 to 10 years. The only thing we can give Putin that would guarantee that he doesn't start the war again in 5 to 10 years is to literally give him all of Ukraine and all of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. If we give him all those countries, he won't have to invade those countries because he'll already have them. But that's it. That's it. There's no other way. So the real danger here, which you've got to keep in mind, I mean, anybody trying to give you the BS arguments about this, is there is no way to stop Putin from starting the same war in 5 to 10 years, and we will be back to exactly where we started. But even worse in a way, because in 5 to 10 years, Russia's military will not be destroyed. The Ukrainians have destroyed the Russian military. Russia's still there. They're not dead yet. right? But they've got but their military is much weaker than it was. God bless, thanks to the Ukrainian government, right? The Ukrainian people. But in 5 to 10 years, the Russians are going to be back. They'll have their military back. And then, God help us. So that's the other problem with this negotiation mantra is, so we just give Russia half of Ukraine and they're not going to come back for more? Really? And again, the lessons of World War II are, yes, dictators do come back for more. They absolutely will come back for more. And by the way, thank you, Jane. The reason they're going to come back for more is because you did appease them, because you told them it's okay. Keep the land you got. A little, what was it called? Was it Lebensraum? What was it called in Germany? The living space, I think is I think that's the translation. It was the H-man's word from World War II. And the idea was, from what I understand, Germany invading and owning its neighbors because it gave it living space. Like as long as we invade a couple of our neighbors, Lebensraum, exactly. And but how does it translate? It translates to living space, something like that, and like room to live, right? Because as long as we're just gonna invade a couple neighbors, and that way there's a little no man's land around Germany to keep us safe. Russia's doing the same thing. But in Germany's case, we saw what happened. That living space, that room to live, it only gave them more of an incentive to go after everybody else. So, in any case, German foreign minister came. There's a lot of interesting news today. I'm sorry, I'm going long, but there's a lot of interesting news today. Thank you, Drew. Please keep the gifts coming, by the way. Remember, I'm doing this full time, doing it for free, and your guys' gifts help me pay the bills, so please keep them coming. Thank you. TikTok and YouTube. I admonish you. Keep them coming. No, I do appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Please keep them coming, though. Yeah, America may have done the same thing with Manifest Destiny, but the problem, Diabeto, is you've got to go back 200 years to criticize America. That's the problem. Thank you, Eddie. It's one thing. I mean, literally, you're going back to like the early 1800s, right? Thank you, Hedge. Thank you, Allison. And literally 200 years ago. I always laugh when people do that. Like, well, Russia today is doing the same thing America did in 1810. Yeah, it was a different world in 1810 or 1840. I think it might have been, Manifest Destiny. Was it 1840? I always forget the exact date. It might have been 1840. Thank you, 4-piece. But back in 1840, we were different people back then. It was a different world back then. There's an excuse, at least, for countries being more imperialistic and expanding and all of that in 1840 than there is in 2024. America doesn't invade its neighbors in 2024 and take their land. Europe doesn't invade its neighbors in 2024 and take their land. Thank you, Noteworthy. You know who's the only country in the area of Europe and North America, of any of this area, who invades their neighbors and takes land? The Russians. The Russians. There's nobody else who does it but the Russians. So, in any case, all right. Germany's foreign minister. So listen to this. So Germany's foreign minister, thank you, Too Fast, came up with an interesting idea, Noteworthy as well, and Simon came up with an interesting idea, and I don't know to what degree this is sort of doable. Thank you, Big Hawk. But the German foreign minister, what I mean by doable, I mean, I don't know whether I'm going to pin this again. By the way, there's a new gift thing, which is very interesting. Thank you, Courtney. I still don't completely understand how it works, but if you give enough of the right kind of gifts, you get up on the leaderboard and it actually puts your name and stuff. And thank you, Addie. Thank you, Dawn. I don't fully understand this because TikTok does a horrific job of explaining these things, I will say. But I've noticed, like at the beginning of the show, I think Mustard and maybe some other folks, your name kind of popped up as a titled giver. Oh, I always like that one. Thank you, Chris. The name popped up as a titled giver, which I guess puts your name up or something, which gives you credit, which I think is nice to actually give people a little more credit here. Jamie, not an hour early because the time changed in America over the weekend. We advanced our clocks ahead an hour this weekend. So time change in America. Anyway, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Nick. So, so German's foreign minister, listen to this. German foreign minister. But I'm talking about Manifest Destiny. Who was that, Martin? As far as when the phrase Manifest Destiny was used, was it not 1840 or so? When was it? I thought it was like 1840s or something. Maybe earlier than that. I think it's 1840s though, because it was a early, like first half of the 1800s, I want to say, with the U.S. expansion and all of that. Anyway, I literally studied this stuff in high school, Would it go back to 1812, Manifest Destiny? I mean, because the phrase was used, right? I can't Google it because I'm live with you guys on my computer and my iPad. That's why I ask you guys to check this stuff out for me. I can ask Alexa, but you know what's going to happen? Was War of 1812, was it that early? Alexa, all right, because you guys aren't checking for me. 1812 to 1867, okay. Okay. See, I think 1845. I'm with Hilo. Alexa, where did the phrase manifest destiny come from? I think it's 1840s.
The expression manifest destiny was first used in 1845 by journalist John O'Sullivan. He utilized it to describe the United States expansionist policies and the nation's belief in its...
Okay, thank you, Alexa. Yep, 1845. Alexa, quiet. That's what I was seeing, 1845. I told you. I didn't study this since high school, but I vaguely remembered Manifest Destiny in the 1840s. Thank you, Christopher. Yeah, so 1845. So, any case, a little more here. So Germany's foreign minister, listen to this. Germany's foreign minister said she was open to a deal. Thank you, Flower Lady. Thank you, that one as well. She was open to a deal in which London supplies Ukraine with additional Storm Shadow cruise missiles in exchange for Germany backfilling British long-range missile stocks. So in other words, the German foreign minister claims, now mind you, let's see how the German Chancellor Scholz thinks, but the German foreign minister suggested, what if the Brits give more cruise missiles to Ukraine and the Germans can give more cruise missiles to the Brits to basically make up for the cruise missiles they don't have? Interesting idea. I don't know. Thank you, Ernie. I don't know well enough with sort of the British military whether they can really use the German cruise missiles or whether it's kind of, sort of the compatibility of how they were using their own cruise missiles. But it's an interesting idea. Thank you, Dawn. I also don't know enough about German politics to know whether just the fact that the German foreign minister said this might mean that she thinks it, but the German chancellor does not, right? Because like in some governments, for example, in Poland, the foreign minister is now a very hawkish man who we like, Radek Sikorski, but he and Duda, the president, are of two different parties, I believe. Thank you. Hey, Robert, good to see you. Thank you for that. Are two different parties, right? So they're not always in agreement. It's very strange as an American because we think of the government at the top, at the federal level, as being all one party. Okay, see, Karuna, there you go. Karuna says the chancellor has already refused the idea. That was my concern. So Karuna is saying, if you are correct, that Scholz, the head of Germany, has already said, no, we're not going to do it. Well, but it is, user. I mean, how is that different than giving the missiles directly? It is, though. It is. I think it really is. It's the Brits who would be giving the missiles, and the Germans are saying, look, we're going to continue. Okay, let me put it this way. If we accept your argument that it's the same thing, then Germany can no longer sell any weapons to any country that is helping Ukraine. Because if Germany sells weapons to countries helping Ukraine, then Germany is making it easier for those countries to give weapons to Ukraine, right? If America, any European country, we're beefing up our own offensive weapons by buying cruise missiles from Germany. That lets us give other offensive weapons to Ukraine. So Germany wouldn't be able to sell weapons to anybody. So I think and again, you're dealing with Russia. You're not totally wrong. I mean, there's clearly a connection. I'm not trying to deny a connection here, but you're dealing with interesting nuances here of plausible deniability, as it's called in politics, right? So that I think I'm going to adjust the lighting again. Oh boy, hold on. I'm adjusting the lighting again for YouTube. There we go. Okay, there we go. That's not too bad. In any case, a little more news. The United Nations human rights expert on Russia has blamed Moscow for Alexei Navalny's death. Alexei Navalny, the Russian opposition leader who everyone believes Putin killed 2 or 3 weeks ago. And she says she's very worried about Putin killing some of the other human rights activists in prison, including famously Vladimir Kara-Murza, who is a British-Russian joint national who, Putin threw in jail, and people are very concerned. The Russian media says that Putin has replaced the head of the Navy, the head of the whole Russian Navy, amid a complete paralysis of fleet leadership, basically in response to the Ukrainians constantly blowing up the Russian fleet, which is pretty funny in the Black Sea in southern Ukraine. I'm going to jump ahead here. Let me see here. I'm gonna call it quits. I mean, not quits. We'll keep talking. I think the rest of the news is enough for right now. Final thing I'll tell you is our battery fundraiser. We've been raising money for Ukrainian military. They've asked us to try to buy them 2 big batteries so that they can charge cell phones and laptop computers at the front. We needed $2,500. Each battery charger is $1,250. We've raised, as of this weekend, we had a little telethon on Saturday with with our monthly subscribers. We raised $2,185 so far. So we need another $315. Am I correct? Yeah, $315, and we've got enough to buy both battery chargers. If anybody wants to help, if you want to give $315, even better. But you can donate via Vlad's PayPal. Let me pull this up. Hang on a second here. We're doing this via my friend Vlad, the way we always do it with Vlad, who we've done this for years now. Totally trustworthy. Vladislav. Hang on. Vladislav. Here we go. Okay. I will give this. Here we go. So for you guys... There we go. For you guys on YouTube, I put it in the comments. That's Vlad's PayPal. And for you guys on TikTok, feel free to go to my profile, click the link in my bio. You'll see the red triangles pointing at the link in my profile on TikTok. Click that link that's there, and the very first thing that comes up will be Vlad's PayPal info. And there's no link to click through at that point. It doesn't work that way because it's PayPal and Ukraine and everything else. Just go to your PayPal, type in the amount you want to send, just put Vlad's email as the recipient, and it'll get to him. And everything, Vlad knows that everything he's getting right now goes for this. 100% of the money goes to help the Ukrainian military. I'm not taking a dime. Vlad is not taking a dime. But we need $315 more, and we will be able to buy the 2 we've already got enough money for 1 generator, 1 battery, I should say. And we need another $315 for 1 more battery. So if you guys can help out, I appreciate it. Thank you. And then Vlad's going to do a drawing. He got a really cool commemorative stamp envelope from Ukraine commemorating the 10 years of war, because remember, the war didn't start in 2022. The war started in 2014 when Russia invaded back then. So we're actually at the 10-year mark of the war. So Vlad got a really cool stamp set commemorating that. So please check it out. All right. I'm going to adjust my lighting again because it is so bright on my eyes. I hate this. That's one of the hard parts with the show. For you guys, it may not be as bad. For you guys, it's really bright on my eyes. Hold on. I'm going to try to lower this. Oh, that's a little better. It's still really bright. I'm trying to lower it and then there we go. Up the exposure a little. That's a little better. All right. Anyway, how's it going with the war? Well, I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it. One way is we are in the 3rd year of Putin's 10-day military invasion. The Russians said they were going to win this war in 3 to 10 days. They even brought their dress uniforms because they were convinced they were going to take Kyiv in the first week. They didn't. I know I could wear my sunglasses. That would be, I don't have them in front of me. That would be very risky business. No, this is like when you go on TV. It's because I've got the big, really strong light in front of me. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. It makes things much more difficult here. Now you can see. So this actually shows you quite well. This is what I'm looking at. But that ring light is very strong. So you can see TikTok on the one side, YouTube on the other. But that ring light, it's hard for me to explain to you how bright that damn thing is. It's very bright. And when you go on TV, it's even worse. The lights when you go on TV, because I've done a lot of TV at the national level in the States here, and you typically are, especially when you're in a room by yourself, there are these huge bright lights in front of you because, you shouldn't have any shadows. Oh my God. Even now I'm getting a little bit of a headache, but it's terrible in TV stations. Well, okay. It's always funny to show. Lamb Chop says, do you really need that light? Let me turn it off. That would be the show without that bright light. That's the show with the bright light. What do you think? Do I need that light? Yeah. And you could also, you can use lamps and things, but lamps usually aren't bright enough. Some people I think get lucky and maybe have the right lamp. It's hard. You do need the light. It sucks, but what do you do? I have side lights. I've tried side lights before. They're okay. I may try them again. I've got side lights that kind of go like, left and right. Anyway, I do need somebody to. I do have two side lights. I could try them again, but you mean so at least one isn't in front of me? I know. Whatever. Don't worry about it now, guys. We'll worry about it later. It's not easy. Yeah. Yeah, diffusers would help. I mean, I've got a, not cheap. That thing probably cost me $80. These things are not cheap. The other lights cost me a couple hundred, Anyway, it's okay. But because the time changed in America, the lighting changed in the apartment and everything else. So, it's not easy. Anyway, yeah, ring lights work pretty well. It's just not very nice on your eyes, which is what I'm getting. Anyway, what's going on, guys? Yeah, let's talk. So I do also have, hello. Remember, we've got a number of auction items up this week. I do auctions over at Discord. I think the auctions end on Wednesday this week. They do. I've got a number of auctions over at our Discord community. You can find the link at aravosis.com right there for you guys. You guys can find the link in my bio. Go to my bio, look at the red arrow, the red triangles pointing at the link. Click the link in my bio, on my profile, I should say, on TikTok. Click that link, and in it you'll see Discord is one of the options. Click Discord, and it'll open up. And I do auctions for cool stuff from Ukraine. Half the auction money goes to support my work because I do this full time, so it helps pay the bills. The other half of the money every week we send to Ukraine. This is the last one I've got at the moment. It is a Ukrainian military camouflage net that, very cool. This is a summer, I always say like, I'm hiding, hello. This is the summer variety, you can tell by the green of it. And we have been raising money. One of the other things we raised money for are camouflage nets for the Ukrainian military. And the charity that we're working with, it makes the nets. We had them, thank you, Christopher, we had them make some of the nets for you guys. So they basically made, this one's a smaller net. It's about maybe 8 feet by 2 feet, which would be 2/3 of a meter by almost 3 meters, maybe, more or less. But the real nets are huge. I mean, it's the same nets, but this is a small version. But the big versions are way too big. I mean, they're 15 feet by 27 feet. So there was no way I was going to auction off one of those, which is like 5 meters by 9 meters. I was like, okay, that's a bit much. But anyway, we've got that. I've got a lot of other cool stuff. I'm looking here. Actually, I should show you. Actually, I will show you a little bit. Because I've got this little, I think Deb or somebody wanted this, so maybe I shouldn't show it. I'll get in trouble. But it's a Ukrainian Christmas ornament, but is just a nice thing you could hang it anywhere. It's a cat, but it's done in the Petrikivka style, which is the beautiful Ukrainian traditional style. That's really lovely. I mean, I have several things like that. Actually, the Russians make them too. I have several Russian versions of these when I was in, Russia back in 1990, back when it was okay, in 1993 when I was in Russia. But these are very cool. I've got a very nice Ukrainian Vyshyvanka that I had considered keeping, to be honest, because this one is red. Red's my favorite color. This one's red, and it's really beautiful. I mean, it's just a gorgeous men's shirt. It's between a size medium and large. It's a 42 for Europe. And I tried it on. I would say it's almost an American large. I would say for this one, it's almost an American large, really, because I'm between a medium and a large, and it was a little large on me. But that's very nice. The other thing, real quick, what was the other? I was going to show you one more thing here. One more thing. Maybe not. Maybe I'm losing my mind. That's fine. There's other stuff too. I don't even remember now. Yeah, I don't remember. But there's other stuff too. Please go check it out. We've got a lot of cool Ukrainian stuff we're auctioning off. And as I said, all of the money, 50% of the money goes to Ukraine. 50% of the money goes to me because I do this full time and it helps me pay the bills. So thank you for that. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk more. What else we got going on, guys? Questions, answers. Feel free to throw up the gifts again. I will gladly call out, do a shout out on TikTok for any of the gifts that fly up on the screen. I love those. And TikTok, YouTube, you guys know how it works. And by the way, remember you can subscribe as well. I do appreciate subscriptions because it's a nice way to give monthly that can also be nice if it can build up over time, Well, here's the problem. Gitta says take care of your own poor people in the U.S. The problem is that the folks who want to cut money for Ukraine, thank you, Lori, don't care about our poor people in the U.S. So it's actually, the topics aren't related. The irony is it's Democrats who typically want to give money to the poor or give money to programs that help the poor. Republicans want to cut it. So if, for example, if you were linking this to Ukraine, you might be. I don't know. A lot of the Republicans do. The Republicans that are MAGA Republicans, the ones that are pro-Putin and anti-freedom, they have been saying that, we should spend the money at home helping our veterans and helping our poor people and helping our homeless. The problem is Republicans don't want to help veterans and the homeless. They cut those programs, and they keep proposing budgets to cut the programs. So there won't be any of that money cut from Ukraine. None of it will go to help anybody in America. At best, it will go to another tax cut for rich people on Wall Street because that's who they spend the money on. But if you want money to go to poor people then and help the homeless and help veterans, then you should be voting for Democrats, to be honest. But Ukraine, it's not going to make any difference. Republicans just cut the money for the border. Thank you, Ulina. Remember? The Democrats finally caved and agreed to all of the Republican proposals for border security, and Donald Trump said, kill it. Donald Trump killed the money that would have gone to the border to stop people from crossing illegally. Thank you. Who is that? Oh, somebody sent a heart that's anonymous, I'm going to guess. It doesn't have a name for you, so I'm going to say thank you, whoever that was. But yeah, so doesn't really help. Yeah, we end the aid, and they're not going to spend it for anything good other than tax cuts, really, which is, they're just going to do more tax cuts. It's what they do. 1 second. Dog needs water. Perfect time, Blue Ariel, for the dog gift. I forgot to put the water out for the dog. All right, dog. All right, Doug. All right. Let's hope that's enough for the moment. All right, we will see if that's enough for the moment. I'm not convinced. It might be, but we will see. Anyway, thank you, Cajun. Thank you, Chip. Who is that? Chippy? Thank you, Chippy. No one has approached me to do radio commentary. No, I'd consider it. I've done radio. I like radio. I've hosted radio shows before when people have been, like on Sirius, when the Michelangelo Signorelli show, when he was on vacation one week, I hosted. And it was funny because one of the top bosses at Sirius who does programming came to me and he goes, I have to tell you, when I heard you were coming, I expected you were going to be very bad. He goes, you're extremely good at this. And I was like, well, thank you, which was very nice. Stop it. I'm getting the weird, there we go, verification thing. It was very nice. So I like radio. Radio's fun. I've never been on Sky News. Now, I've done a lot of American news before. I've been on CNN a lot. Not recently, but CNN a lot. I actually did a lot of Fox News 20 years ago. I've not been on anything in the last few years, though. No. Yeah, it's funny you say, I mean, thank you for saying it, but I never think of myself as having a voice for radio. I've been on BBC several times, yes. Not on TV. I've been on BBC Radio. Thank you, Pedro. I don't think I've been on BBC TV. I don't think so. I'd have to think about that. But as I've done radio, I've done some French TV from time to time. Yeah, I never think of myself as a radio voice. Thank you for saying it, but because to me, radio voices are always people who have the low baritone and they can kind of talk like this. And like baritone on radio sounds so much better. I mean, so much better, Local news station? I don't think so. It's possible, but I don't think so. In any case, yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of funny doing TV and doing radio and stuff because there's an aspect of it that isn't real. Like radio, you're just talking by phone, or nowadays maybe we would talk using a microphone with Zoom or something, but you're just talking for like half an hour. There's no audience really, and it's the same thing with TV. I mean, like I'd go on CNN and I'd be nervous, but at the same time, in a way you don't get nervous because you're not really on TV. You're in a room talking to like one or two people and that's it. Or even worse, you're in a room by yourself, which I really hate when you go on TV then. And they put you in a little studio alone. So if anything, you don't even think there's an audience. What's hard there is you've got a thing in your ear and you're trying to have a conversation and you're looking at a camera and you're trying to have a conversation pretending someone's there when no one's there. You're in a room by yourself having an argument with somebody who's here in your ear. Very confusing and difficult. So I never find that nervous as far as having an audience. I find it nervous as far as just you're live, so you don't want to get it wrong, or you don't want to get a question you don't know the answer to, right? Any case, TV is very interesting, you know? So anyway, so what else we got, guys? More questions, more comments. Is it feasible, Brax asks, is it feasible that Ukraine could take back Crimea at this point, or is that kind of out the window? I mean, I don't. What gets extremely difficult is Russia has dug in so much, you know? I mean, you know, Crimea is interesting because I'm saying my dog's just roaming around. Crimea is interesting because, you know, all Ukraine has to do, initially is cut the invasion in half. That's what they were trying to do. They wanted to come down here probably and cut the invasion in half because it starts to cut off supplies to Crimea and Kherson, and then you blow up the bridge. The problem is that was not an easy thing to do. You know? That was not... You want to come in? What are you doing, Sash? She's like hanging. That was clearly not an easy thing to do. And we said for a variety of reasons, including the fact that we never gave the Ukrainians the air power they needed to actually cut the Russian occupation in half. So I don't know. I mean, I worry. Quiet. She's at the front door now trying to get the neighbor dog to play, her little Yorkie friend who was sick this weekend. So she didn't get to play with him as much as she wanted to. But I don't know. I worry. For example, where things are in America right now, maybe there'll be one more aid package for Ukraine. Maybe it won't be 60 billion. It'll be smaller, and it's not going to be enough. So I feel like not what's the point, but like what the hell, you know? So I'm worried about what Ukraine can accomplish now because I don't think, honestly, we don't want Ukraine to win. Biden doesn't want Ukraine to win. I've said this before. Scholz in Germany doesn't want Ukraine to win. France may finally want Ukraine to win. Macron may finally want it. Thank you, Joker. But I think Chancellor Scholz of Germany and President Biden are both very afraid that if Putin actually loses this war, Putin will go crazy. And he'll use his nukes. He'll do something evil. So they don't want Putin to lose. But they don't want Putin to win either, because they're afraid if Putin gets Ukraine, all of Ukraine, then Putin might go and invade the rest of Europe. So they would rather have a stalemate. They'd frankly rather have a negotiation. They'd rather have if a deal could be worked out and Ukraine gives up half its land to Russia and the Russians go away and build up for another 10 years and invade again in 10 years, I think Biden and Scholz in Germany would be fine with that. They'd be like, you know what, puts it off for 10 years, that's fine. I really do. So the problem with giving more aid to Ukraine is we are never going to give Ukraine the aid it needs because we don't want Ukraine to win. Actually, to get back to the question that started this, we don't want Ukraine to take back Crimea. Biden does not want Ukraine to take back Crimea, right? Crimea, the land in the south that Putin stole in 2014. Biden thinks it'll just piss off Putin if he gets it back. Biden hasn't said it, but that's the deal. Trump, by the way, already said it belongs. Trump years ago said, it belongs to Russia. Let Putin have it. So Trump isn't going to do anything as far as Putin taking Ukraine because Trump is corrupted by Putin, obviously. But it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Yeah. So, very scary. Yes, definitely, like Solak said, definitely hit the up buttons, hit the likes, hit the everything you got on all the services. I always forget to ask you guys that because it tells the algorithms that people like this broadcast, and somehow that helps, I guess. I'm told. So please do. Bogdan, it's very depressing, but I think it's true. Yeah. Bogdan says, I'm Ukrainian, and it sadly looks just like you're saying. Yeah. But I think that's been the problem from the beginning. America didn't really want Ukraine to win the war. I should say Biden. He wanted to give Ukraine a chance to stop Russia, but not push Russia back. Thank you, Tommy. So... Dawn says, Trump news, Trump team expected to fire 60 staffers from the RNC. Oh, yeah. So one of the things Trump did as part of, frankly, all the corruption he accuses Biden of, but it's really Trump now put his daughter-in-law, his son's wife, in charge of the Republican Party in Washington. So she's now the head of the Republican National Committee, the Republican Party headquarters. He gave it to his daughter-in-law, who has no experience. But of course, she's Trump, so and she's getting ready to fire a bunch of the staff because he's going to make the party headquarters Trumpy. They want to use all the money for Trump's campaign. They don't want to use it for other Republicans. I mean, it's yeah. Again, let them destroy it all, but it's just one more sign of sort of the dictatorship. Oops, there we go. Unknown caller. Oh well, I'm gonna guess spam. It almost always is. We'll see. Just really really. Thank you, Iron Rose. Nice to hear a non-pro-Russian channel. Wow. I didn't know. I mean, hopefully there aren't too many pro-Russian channels out there, but I am definitely not a pro-Russian channel. That is for sure. No, I mean, I've been to the Soviet. I always tell people, like, I studied Russia growing up. I went to the Soviet Union in college. Thank you, Annie. Oh, thank you, Annie. That's very nice of you. I appreciate it. I haven't seen that one before. That's very sweet. Thank you. I don't remember it. When I was studying, I was doing my study abroad in France in the early 1980s. And there was the French have wonderful travel agents. And there was a trip to the Soviet Union for like $300 or $350. But even back then, it wasn't, whatever it wasn't that much. And talked to my parents and they said, do it. Thank you, Cajun. And I got to go to Moscow and Leningrad, and it was fascinating. Horrible. I mean, terrifying place. But, what do you do? I mean, Margot, I talked about the State of the Union the other day. I'm not sure what else there is to add. I mean, we did talk about it the other day, Pedro says, what could be the best stalemate if Ukraine must not lose and Russia not lose either? That's the problem. Thank you, Jonathan. I think it's a, not a non sequitur. What's the word I'm looking for? The only way to end the war right now is for Ukraine to give up land and Putin just invades again in 10 years and takes even more. It's what he did in 2014. He invaded in 2014, took Crimea in the south and some of the land in the east. He then waited 8 years, invaded again, took more land. Now he's got 17% of Ukraine taken. He's got a big chunk in the east, declared it to be Russia. And he's going to do the same thing in 5 to 10 years. He's going to invade again and take more land. So, I mean, yeah. The only solution is for Ukraine right now to say, oh, please don't hurt us. Keep whatever you've got. That's not really a solution. And also, Putin's just going to invade again and take more in 5 to 10 years. I mean, now the real way to stop the war, and if I were Ukraine, I wouldn't be happy about this, you give Russia the east and the south, and NATO says you are now a member of NATO. The problem is Orban. He's not going to accept Ukraine being a member of NATO because he works for Putin, the wannabe dictator of Hungary. So I don't even think, and I'm not even sure what the French would do. I don't think you would get Ukraine being allowed into NATO, to be honest. But that's the only way to stop Putin from invading again. Well, being a member of NATO does in principle, because then, except Donald Trump, of course, right? Actually, and that's true too. So let's pretend Ukraine becomes a member of NATO. Donald Trump is president, or somebody Trumpy, Trump is still alive at least, and he tells the Republicans, no, Putin is my friend, he owns me, and I don't want you hurting him. So if he invades Ukraine, if he invades a NATO country, you let him. I mean, Donald Trump has already urged, 3 weeks ago, he urged Putin to invade NATO, to invade Europe. So you actually are correct about that. Joining NATO doesn't solve the problem, because Trump has already made clear that America's word means nothing and America's commitment means nothing. He has absolutely no adherence to any concept of freedom. He doesn't believe in America. He doesn't believe in freedom. He doesn't believe in democracy. And he couldn't care less about defending American values around the world or defending American interests around the world. He doesn't care. I think Putin probably bought him off with a hotel or something, frankly. And the Chinese probably do. He was already bought off on, I mean, the TikTok stuff. Trump changed his mind on TikTok because of a rich donor. Trump met with a rich donor, and and the donor is an investor. No, hey, I'm kind of glad if TikTok survives. Let the TikTok powers that be know. I am happy if TikTok survives because it's my lifeblood. But Trump just changed his mind from wanting to ban TikTok when he was president to defending it because he met with a rich Republican donor who is an investor in ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok. And after Trump met with the rich owner who's got ownership in TikTok, he changed his mind. I mean, again, the corruption of this guy is unbelievable. Thank you, Pizditz. Unbelievable. You know? Google it. It just happened this weekend. He met with this guy and voila. Actually, I mean, I'll say this. The guy is saving my lifeblood, so I'm not upset about that. But this rich Republican donor has now hired Kellyanne Conway, who was a top Trump official, to go and lobby Congress. They've bought off the Club for Growth because he's a big guy with the Club for Growth, which again is a big right-wing sort of pro-business group of the Republicans. He basically bought them off too. So now he's got all Republicans changing their mind on TikTok because he bought them off, which is, I mean, and this is Democrats too in this case. Sadly, in our system of politics, money talks, and you can basically buy off politicians. You don't give them the money directly. I mean, in Trump's case, you probably could give them the money directly, but you don't buy it directly. Thank you, MetaHumor. You're able to say, I'll spend $100 million getting you elected, right? I won't give it to you. I'll do outside ads. And voila, you know? Oh, yeah, the Slovakia guy's a total nut job. Fico, or however the hell you pronounce his name, but F-I-C-O, Robert Fico. He's a total pro-Putin jerk as well. Yep. Very bad. Just very bad across the board, you know? So, anyway. So, I did. Yes, Tim, we talked about Putin, Polish foreign minister saying that there's already NATO troops in Ukraine, or I should say troops from NATO countries. Thank you, Mustard. Thank you, Timothy. Troops from NATO countries. And basically, I think he's doing it to basically increase the possibility of more troops going. Thank you, Timothy. Or thank you, Dwayne. Because the idea is if you say, well, and I'm sure it's true. Thank you, Maddie. If you say, well, look, NATO's already got troops in Ukraine, it's less shocking to put more troops. That is a smaller increment, right? If there's already troops there and you say, let's have more, that's not as shocking as there are no NATO troops and now NATO's putting troops in Ukraine. Oh my God, right? It's a much bigger change in policy than, oh no, the troops are already there. We're just adding more. That's just not as big. So he's admitting publicly what a lot of people knew or suspected privately in order to help the effort to move troops there. User 656, the world is crumbling under Biden. The problem is America doesn't have that kind of control in the world. It's not like Biden pushed a button and said, hey, Palestinian terrorists, go and invade Israel and commit the biggest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. That's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't control Hamas. Joe Biden doesn't control Putin, with Putin invading Ukraine. I mean, Donald Trump, by the way, if you want to talk about it, Trump was the one who during his presidency said it was totally cool for Putin to invade Ukraine and that Crimea, they want to be Russian anyway, so it was totally okay for Putin to take it. I mean, Trump, by the way, is the one who undercut NATO. So, I don't buy this BS of, oh, well, because it happened under Biden, that makes Biden a bad president. I mean, Trump did kill several million Americans with COVID. So, we can all play that game if you want to get into things that happened under each presidency. Thank you, Allison. I didn't get to see my mother for a year and a half, who's 90, at the time, 91 years old, because Donald Trump decided to ignore COVID. We couldn't even buy toilet paper. They were out of toilet paper at the store because Donald Trump so screwed up the economy. So, let's not pretend like, oh, things are so bad under Biden. I got news for you. They were pretty bad under Donald Trump, too. They were very bad under Donald Trump. Exactly. And Biden never talked about injecting bleach to cure COVID. So, yeah, let's not. Also, Joe Biden never tried to violently overthrow the government and kill the vice president. So there is that, too, if we're counting who did what. Thank you, Super Hornet. I don't think Biden's bad anyway, but Trump, yeah, if you're comparing the two, as I've said before, Joe Biden is old. Donald Trump tried to violently overthrow the government. He's a fascist and authoritarian, and he wants to end democracy in America. He's also a racist and a rapist. Other than that, Biden is old. Yes. So, I think honestly, and I mean, forget the Trumpers. The Trumpers, it's not. But I think for voters in the middle or voters on the left need to just grow up at some point, No, it really does. I'm not a big fan of people who are like, I didn't get everything I wanted. I literally saw somebody on Twitter the other day go, well, Biden has now forgiven a lot of student loans, but my loans weren't forgiven. And I was like, oh, boo-hoo for you. He's not going to vote for Biden because his loans weren't forgiven. Sometimes you just kind of want to like, or like, boom, people. It's like, okay. No, currently, Trump might even be a little ahead of Biden, to be honest. Yeah. Sobo just said something I always say. He said, Biden is my president, not my boyfriend. I don't need to agree with everything. I tell people with the same thing, like when I criticize Biden about Ukraine policy, and I'm like, he's not your boyfriend. Like, stop this whole, oh, nobody can criticize Biden or it's the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, and the same thing with Trump, frankly, because Trumpers are even worse. Oh, God forbid you criticize Lord God Donald. I mean, God forbid you believe anything, Why should we not support RFK? Because he's a conspiracy theorist who just the other day, his organization came out and said the polio vaccine doesn't work and isn't necessary because polio isn't caused by polio. I mean, these people are literally, he's out of his mind. Literally, he's crazy. That's why you shouldn't vote for RFK Jr. He's literally a lunatic. I mean, on Ukraine, he's totally parroting, Russian talking points there too. But as far as like literally polio, the polio vaccine doesn't work and polio doesn't cause polio. So that's why you don't even need the vaccine. Like, we eradicated polio for a while until RFK Jr.'s friends decided that they didn't need vaccines anymore. We had eradicated polio and even it's coming back. Huge measles outbreak. Was it New York or where that now they're worried about a measles outbreak because some kid was at a hospital last week who of course had measles and I guarantee you wasn't vaccinated, I'm sure, because he's one of the lunatics that wasn't vaccinated. So yeah, no, that's why you shouldn't vote for RFK Jr. He's a lunatic, but he's literally a lunatic. He's not like, also he's a big Democrat. I mean, the irony is he's a big Democrat. Republicans like him, but they only like him because he's pissing off Democrats because he's crazy. But he's actually a big Democrat, but he's literally crazy. I mean, and I just think crazy is really dangerous. So, I love it. Polio. I mean, polio. Who the hell tries to bring back polio? Like, my God, anyway, we've been going almost an hour and a half here. Okay. We're going to call it quits shortly, guys. Oh, man. Anyway. Oh, that's a point. Otanbot says, Americans are not mature enough to vote in the election. Perhaps this can be outsourced to Europeans. Well, I'm sure it'll be outsourced to Russians at some point. But no, I'm kind of wondering whether anybody deserves to live in a democracy. I really do. I think, like, again, I thought it was more Europe than my country. But people here are incredibly stupid. And they're prone to authoritarianism. They want a dictator. And they're willing to believe anything that's being told to them, and that's just incredibly sad, And it's more than that, I was a Republican up until 1993, and like all that stuff now Republicans don't believe in anything. I mean, now it's literally they don't believe in the Bible, they don't believe in anything now. So they don't believe in America, they don't believe in freedom, democracy, foreign policy, and none of this stuff, right? But before, Republicans believed in like God and country and a strong national defense and all this kind of stuff. That's what kind of blew my mind. With Trump showed that literally everything was a lie. Republicans claiming they believed in God and all this crap, total lie. That they would vote for Trump? I mean, the most unreligious man you can even imagine, right? Total lie. Dan, unless you're trying to be a troll, you're literally about to leave because you're just being trolly. So I'm leaving you because I don't know whether you've been here before, but you're being trolly. One more comment like that and you're gone. But I can tell you are a troll. He is a troll though, because I'm assuming he's a troll because why is he bringing that up when we're not even talking about it? So give him one more chance, but you're going to prove my rule, Dan, which is that if you give trolls a chance, the next thing they say will be will be trolly. Yeah. In any case. In any case. All right, guys, we've been doing this for an hour and a half. I say we call it quits here. All right. Well, I'm trying to get confused because there was another Lieutenant Dan. That's where I was getting confused. But I'm assuming what he wrote could not have been the guy we're used to. I'm assuming. But in any case, guys, all right. Yeah, people are naive and people are stupid and they like fascism. I mean, that's what I think we've learned in this country, which is very sad. But like I was saying, you Republicans, yeah, Republicans, they don't believe in the religious stuff they claim to. Dobrodenich, Marie. Thank you, Keith. They don't believe in the religious stuff that they claim. They don't believe in America. They don't believe in our democracy at all. They attack all the institutions. They tried to violently overthrow the government, and then they defended violently overthrowing the government. They don't believe in a strong national defense. They don't believe in democracy and standing up to America's enemies. I mean, the fact that, thank you, Stellar, as far as Trump said, Trump loves the Chinese government, the communists. Trump loves the North Korean communist dictators. Trump loves Vladimir Putin. They love their way of life. Tucker Carlson, who's one of the biggest Trumpers out there, goes to Russia a month ago and tells people Russia's better than America. Russia's not better than America. That the Russian economy is better than America. The Russian economy is not better than America. Russians make 1/6 of the money we make. Russians have got nothing. They've got exploding watermelons and exploding televisions. They've got an AIDS crisis that's been out of control for decades that they never got under control. The country, alcoholism. I mean, it's Russia's a joke as far as the condition of that country. But these guys, they hate America. They hate everything this country stands for, and Donald Trump. And the scary part is, rather than turning on Trump, these Republicans all went, oh, you're right. We are a bad country. You're right. God and the Bible and the Ten Commandments, all that stuff doesn't matter. Go and break as many as you like. We don't care, right? National defense, we don't care about defending the country. America's enemies, we love all of America's enemies, and we hate America's friends because Donald Trump said so. I mean, literally, to call this a cult is probably being nice to Republican voters. I think it's worse than a cult. Honestly, I think too many Republicans in this country were lying. They're liars. They stood for absolutely nothing. Everything they claimed to believe, they were liars. That's what scares me the most, is that basically everyone's a little corrupt, you know? And yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr. is a conspiracy theorist and a liar himself. So that man, there is 0% chance that man should be anywhere near the presidency. His organization literally came out against the polio vaccine last week. So like the man is literally Looney Tunes out of his mind. So his voice, he's got a medical condition with his voice. His sister does too, by the way, Kennedy Jr. I watched his sister interviewed a couple weeks ago, and she's got the exact same voice, which means it's sadly it's got to be a genetic condition, I'm assuming. He's very smart, but a lot of crazy people are smart. Michael Flynn is very smart. He's insane. You know, smart does not mean you're not crazy. You know, see, Michael, you know, I mean, you know, anyway. All right, guys, let's call it quits. We've been going an hour and a half. All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you, everybody. I don't know if Trump's intelligent. I don't think Trump is intelligent. He's clearly not a smart man, right? Trump is not somebody you listen to and you go, I mean, I say this as somebody who's pretty smart. There are very few things in life I'll claim. Intelligence is one of them, because I was born that way. So I don't take credit for it. So I'm happy to claim it. Thank you, Jay, for the carrots or for the hearts. As a smart person, I can identify smart people pretty easily. Donald Trump is not a smart or intelligent person. He is crafty. Thank you, TMK. Thank you, Allison. He's very crafty. He's a con artist. And I'm not sure thank you. Who is that? Yeva? Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, from Latvia. Oh, thank you. Hello, Latvia. I don't know what you call a person who's a good con artist. Maybe street smart? I mean, they're a con man, but I mean, like, what traits a con man has that allows him to trick people? You know what I mean? I'm not sure what that is. But I wouldn't call him smart. No, but there are certain charisma. That's what I mean. Things like charisma. There are certain traits they've got that they're able to convince people. He's got charisma. he knows marketing. He's very good at marketing. He's very good at marketing. I don't know if he's got charm. I don't know if it's charm. I don't know what it is. Honestly, he also bloviates and does the strongman thing. People like that. But he's clearly not intelligent or smart. No, he's actually a very dumb person. Thank you, R19. But dumb doesn't mean you can't be good at business, or doesn't mean you can't be a good dictator. I mean, good dictator meaning not a good dictator, but meaning effectively pull off becoming a dictator is what I mean, right? But yeah, he's not even close to smart. He's not close to smart. Cunning. That's a good word from Hui. Trump is cunning. Now that's an interesting word. He could be cunning. Yes, he could be cunning. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Trump has those qualities that somebody who is very effective at being vengeful. Those are the qualities Trump has. It's cunning, it's conniving, kind of evil, mean, hateful, but he's very effective at being those things. In any case, yeah, like I said, he's definitely not he's definitely not smart or intelligent. No. I worry for our country. I really do. All right, guys, let's call it quits. All right, thank you for the gifts, everybody. I will be back tomorrow. Remember, the time has changed in America. The time's changed. But we changed it. We set our clock ahead an hour this weekend. So it is currently 7:35 p.m. East Coast America, which is where I do the show right now. And I'm doing it at 6 o'clock Washington, D.C. time tomorrow. So remember, 6 o'clock Eastern. I will set it up on YouTube, TikTok, you'll just have to remember. But if you get confused, remember it's always, actually, TikTok, it's in my profile. It says 6 p.m. Eastern. You will always know that. So just check Washington, D.C., check New York City, and that's the time zone I'm in. I'm not going to do a recap today, Trash. I've been going for an hour and a half, and it was kind of a long show. I'd rather not do a recap. But otherwise, thank you, guys. I will see you all tomorrow, all right? So have a good night. Thank you, Crystal, for the last-minute gift. Appreciate that. Thank you, mods, as always. And 6 p.m. Eastern is now 20 PK. I don't even know what that means. Oh, you're only 4 hours ahead. Oh, that's interesting. That is a good time zone for you guys now. Well, at least for the next 3 weeks. And then we're back to normal. But that is good for Europe, at least. It makes it, or for part of Europe, it makes it a little bit easier for you guys. So makes it confusing, but makes it easier. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you. All right. Have a good day. We'll see you all tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern. All right.